Good afternoon, everyone. I think before we start with the crime stats, we're going to have a very brief introductory video, and then we'll take it from there.
You want to give them a little bit of one note what this is? There's no sound, right?
It's going to come on.
Okay. Is it me or is there no sound?
Come out. Get his hands.
I have one.
I got one handcuffed.
He's on the other. I have it. Roll him on his front.
What's this?
I have it. I have the other hand.
I got it right here.
Just take it out.
Nice. I got it.
40 caliber.
So,
I'll continue searching. Make sure he got nothing else.
so that's a body cam compilation, if you will, from about a week ago in the Bronx. I'll give you the background on the story, and I'll be a little quick because it's an active criminal case at this point that's being prosecuted in the Southern District of New York. But I am happy to say that we have the arresting officer here. As I look to her, if you could come up, Maura Deloria from the 47th Precinct was one of a number of officers that you saw there responding to a gun run, as we call it, at a bodega in the Bronx. And I'll remind you that in the couple weeks prior to that, also in the Bronx, we had two separate incidents of store workers shot and killed in the Bronx. So as the officers here respond to the Bronx, they encounter that individual walking out, and you see 4 or 5 officers take the individual immediately to the ground and remove the gun from his person. What the officer did not know at the time was that the individual had actually just fired a shot inside that bodega. So that's all I will say regarding the active investigation, but I thought it was appropriate. Number one, Maura, congratulations.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you for what you do, and great job.
Thank you, sir.
That's right. Really?
Yeah.
Oh,
51 arrests, that's a first gun.
Wow.
Thanks again, Maura. So good afternoon, everyone. In a few moments, Mayor Blasio will say a few words, and then you'll hear from Chief Mike LaPetri on my left on what we're seeing right now in terms of the crime picture in New York City. I'll get right into it. I can tell you that we intend to use all of our tools at our disposal to continue our proven track record of finding justice for victims in New York City. And victims are who this is all about. Finding justice for anyone who's already been victimized, trying our hardest to prevent future crimes and future victims through precision policing, specifically focusing on the serious crimes and the serious offenders, a criminal population that I'll remind everyone makes up a relatively small portion of the people in this great city. For the second month in a row now, we've seen increases in crime across multiple categories, which reinforces what we had seen in January. As I said in testimony yesterday before the City Council's Committee on Public Safety, we saw some momentum building in January with a spike across the board, and now we have seen the same in February. Mike LaPetri will get into what we are doing about it, most importantly, by identifying the locations throughout New York City where we are seeing this increase. We'll use non-traditional deployment as well as traditional deployment. We'll retask personnel for high visibility, uniformed patrol, utilizing foot and motor vehicles throughout New York City. We'll also allocate additional overtime for the steps as well. We face some challenges at the moment, as we often do, but I am extremely confident, however, in the dedication and vast abilities of the men and women of this great police department, such as you just saw this past week, as well as our partners across New York City. We will rise to the occasion as we always do, shut out all the noise, and get back to the basics of what we do best, and that's keeping people safe. Tireless in our prevention efforts and relentless in our investigations and follow-up. Mr. Mayor?
Thank you very much, Commissioner. And Commissioner, thank you for giving everyone the opportunity to meet Officer DeLaury. Very, very impressive arrest. I mean, I think, again, everyone, you got a moment there. That's not a movie, that's the real thing. To see what our officers do, split-second decisions, obviously a very dangerous circumstance, immediately handling the situation exactly right according to training, getting that gun secured. That is an example of what the NYPD does every single day. And in fact, the fact that there's been an increase in gun arrests, further evidence of the increased effectiveness of the NYPD. We have challenges, which I'll talk about in a moment, but a profound congratulations to Officer DeLaury as well as her colleagues, Officer Badesco, Alexander Badesco, Officer Nicholas Isaac. Yeah, last name is Isaac, right? Nicholas Isaac, and Officer Matthew Hutt. We appreciate them all. The overall picture. So in February, we'll obviously be talking about this here today, but February we see a lot of consistency with January. The good news is absolutely crucial. Murders down, 5 fewer murders in February 2020 compared to February 2019. Overall, 10 fewer murders this year. That is a reduction of 18%. The single most important crime statistic, we see some real progress, 18% reduction in murder on the year. Also, reduction in rape, very important on the year. That is a reduction of 33 instances and is 11.5% reduction overall year to date compared to last year. But that's where the good news ends, because the overall situation in February continues as in January. The index crimes combined, a 22.5% increase. Obviously, a very striking increase, one that causes us tremendous concern. Now, it has to be said, we're going to be real factual here, and New Yorkers want facts. This is against the backdrop of historically, literally historically low levels, the lowest levels we've ever seen of index crimes. So thank God the NYPD, with community partners, have gotten our overall crime levels down so low that when we see an increase like this, it is still a level of crime much, much lower than anything we've seen in even the recent past. And this is not a value judgment, it's a statement of fact. What we see primarily is an increase in property crimes and a lot of crimes committed by young people against young people, which is obviously an area of real concern. But that's what we're seeing specifically. I want to express my full confidence in the NYPD to be able to deal with this situation. We'll certainly talk about other things that we need to do and help we need from Albany. But the specific reality is the NYPD will handle whatever is thrown at them. And we know, as they deal with this kind of trend, that they know how to use the principles of CompStat and precision policing to make the adjustments. For example, to take foot patrols and vehicle patrols and move them to the right places at the right time, to have an impact on some of these patterns, and obviously focusing on geographical areas where there's been a particular need. That's what the NYPD does every day. They do it very effectively. They will continue to do it in this situation. Bottom line is the approach will remain consistent. We expect it to work because it always has worked. We definitely have some work to do. But as you just saw a moment ago, I literally think we have the greatest police officers we've ever had in our history, the best training, the best equipment. They are certainly up to this task. I'll say a few quick words in Spanish. En febrero hubo menos homicidios, pero el índice de crimen subió. Tenemos plena confianza en que el Departamento de Policía seguirá protegiendo a los neoyorquinos. With that, I'll turn to our Chief of Crime Control Strategies, Mike LaPetrie.
Thank you. Good afternoon. So like the Commissioner and the Mayor said, for the month of February, we did see a 22% crime increase. Just to keep in mind, that does include an extra day for the leap year. Just looking at the leap year alone, in 2016, we had almost 7,341 crimes, so we did come up, comparing leap years, we did increase by 300 crimes, and then going to the leap year in 2012, we have a decrease of about 100 crimes. So my statistics will have the full 29 days. We do see every borough in the city, every patrol borough in the city for February saw an increase for a total, like I said, of about 22% or 1,400 crimes. Transit also saw a spike for the month of February with an increase of 77 crimes or 40%. Overall transit crime, when you take a look at it, what's driving that crime is the same thing that was driving it towards the end of last year, continued into this year, and that is personal electronic devices being swiped from people's hands, and that is being done more by individuals under the age of 18. 48% of the arrests in transit for robbery in the month of February were for individuals under the age of 18. As far as shootings in the city saw an increase of 3 for the month of February. For the year up until February 29th, there was an increase of 17 or 18%. The police commissioner hit on it. We've identified some areas in the city that has seen an uptick in shootings this year, specifically in Southeast Queens. I've identified 2 precincts that have seen an uptick, and also a couple of precincts in Brooklyn, specifically Brooklyn North, that has seen an uptick in shootings. We have moved resources. We will continue to move resources, and as always, we look at it real time. Murders. For the month of February, we were down 5 murders, 20 to 25. For the year up until February 29th, we were down 10 murders, 44 for 55. As far as the method, 12 were shot, 4 were cut, 1 was blunt, and the other one was asphyxiation. Rapes are down for the month of February, and they continue for the past 5 months. That trend has continued, where we see a decrease in rape. Robbery, spiking in all 8 patrol boroughs. When you look at what's driving the robberies, multiple perp robberies, that's 45% of all our robberies. When you look at the method of the robbery, force, so simple force, which is robbery 3rd degree, that is something that I have spoken about in the past. Just to keep in mind, when 56%, so more than half, obviously, of our robberies in February were by force, which is robbery 3rd degree, and then we also see a big percentage of those robberies 2nd degree aided by another, and those are crimes that individuals can no longer get bail for. As far as the arrest for robberies, 32%, so 32% of all our robbery arrests this year are for under the age of 18, compared to 27%. Victims under the age of 18, an additional 65 victims, 54%, 186 victims of robbery were under the age of 18. So it continues to be youth on youth using force. Felony assaults. Manhattan saw a decrease in felony assaults in February, as did Brooklyn North. We have an increase of approximately 9% or 119 felony assaults. What's driving felony assaults in the city are stabbings and slashings. We also have seen an increase in our nightclubs, our bars, 62%, 42 versus 26. And what's disturbing is that we also see an increase of shootings within bars or clubs. Burglaries. Burglaries are up 19% for February. Again, very concerning when it comes to the method of the burglaries. It's the commercial burg, it's the residential burg, and who commits those types of burglaries? Or we have a lot of pattern individuals, you know. So when we get these individuals, you know, a lot of times they've done 4 or 5 in the past, and we are charging them with that. But when we get them, those are the charges. Those are the charges. The charges are burg third degree. They broke into somebody's apartment, somebody's house. Burglary second degree. They broke into somebody's commercial establishment. And again, kind of follows what's driving the robberies in the city. Same thing with the burglaries. You cannot receive a bail for committing those crimes. Grand larcenies. Overall grand larcenies are up 24%. Again, an uptick with juveniles. We see 17% of our arrests for the month of February were under the age of 18 compared to only 7% in 2019. What's driving the grand larcenies are the snatches, the electronic device snatch, property from vehicle. We also see an increase in pay larcenies for property from a vehicle. Vehicle accessories, that's the tires and the rims. We see an uptick in shoplifts for grand larcenies. We see an uptick in pay larcenies for grand larcenies. And then finally, grand larceny of an auto. We were up 61% in the city of New York for grand larcenies of an auto. We do see a uptick in the stealing of vehicles, either running or key fobs left inside the vehicle. So approximately 30% of our grand larcenies for the month of February, vehicles were stolen when they were running. And if you add another 15%, which we've determined to be stolen with possibly a key fob inside. So almost 40 to 45% of all our steals in New York City have some kind of key fob involved or the key was running. Thank you very much.
On-topic questions only to start, and then we'll switch afterward.
Tony?
Yeah, yesterday at the city council, you and Chief LaPetri talked about the uptick in reoffenders who are let out without bail because of the nature of the crime now. I think there was a number of, that's repeated in your report today, 482 defendants that reoffended when they were let out of the courthouse, committing some 800 some odd crimes.
Not committing, Tony, not committing. There's a big difference here. That's arrests. So for an agency that has 7,000 less arrests this year, those are the people that we are arresting. We know that they have offended a lot more throughout the city. That was our handcuffed people.
Well,
Arrested.
the number of 800 plus that you had there in terms of the rearrest, were you able to break that down into how many were the index crimes, how many were drug offenses, how many were misdemeanors or petty offenses?
I have it all broken down. And, you know, for the matter of time and not to bore people, I'll just get into the 7 majors. The UCR index is what we're talking about today, the victims that I just described. So like you said, when you look at non-bail eligible felonies, not talking about anything but felonies, we've identified 482 people who have been arrested 846 times. Out of the 846 times they've been arrested, almost 35% of the time, 299 of the 7 majors, compared to 109 7 majors last year. So that's an increase of approximately 207 majors, which again, we're talking about victims. So it's almost 3 times more an increase of arrests with an agency that is down almost 7,000 arrests.
Mike, all of those statistics are occurring this year?
Everything is this year. So I just want to explain to the room. Your initial arrest has to be for a non-bail eligible felony, and you have to commit the crime after your initial arrest, which means within 59 days, we have seen them reoffend, we have seen them arrested 846 times, 299 times for 7 majors. Recidivism only grows with time. So can you imagine where we'll be in 6 months from now?
Are we still the safest big city in America? I noticed the sign's no longer here.
Yes, we are,
We must be repainting it. We absolutely are. Absolutely.
by a lot.
Rocco?
For Chief LaPetri, Chief, what is the 109 number for last year? What does that correspond to?
That's 7 majors also.
Which body of people?
Same, apples to apples. This is apples to apples. This is done by my office, by my crime analysis team, my data scientists, and that is, we are comparing the same procedure, the same data is compared to January 1st to February 28th, 2019 to 2020. Again, we have the specific charges that we've put into our program. Those all meet the not eligible for bail, but you have to be arrested for a felony. So we are not including misdemeanors, and then that person has to reoffend for a crime after. So if you committed a crime in December, 5 robberies, and you get arrested after initial arrest, it doesn't count. These are people who reoffend this year.
You mean those arrested in the first 2 months of last year for one of the 7 majors reoffended 109 times last year, correct?
Not reoffended, were arrested, with us making 7,000 more arrests at that time.
DP numbers, don't you mean deferred prosecution or do you mean declined prosecution?
So when we capture declined prosecutions, we also include deferred. Why is that? Because as real time, you are not being prosecuted for that crime. And it's up to the DA's office, working with us to see if we're going to go back and make that arrest. So I'm going to, since you asked the question, I'll get into it. So again, non-bail eligible felony arrests this year, for the first 59, 58 days of the year, there have been 803 declined or deferred prosecutions compared to 527 last year. So we're at 11% rate this year compared to a 7% rate last year. So the question comes, why is that? Very quickly.
Mike, can you just cite, too, the Berg example from, I think it was yesterday or the day before?
Sure. So last night, we arrested an individual who was being charged with 25 burglaries. And again, if that person is not arrested, or we don't have any other evidence to see if possibly they were armed with a firearm, which would make it a Berg 1, it's an aggravating factor, basically, to rise the level to get bail for a burglary with the new criminal justice reform. So yesterday, we charged an individual with 25 burglaries. The issue with that is, when it comes to pattern burglars or pattern robberies, subject matter is relevant, which means discovery is relevant. So if you get charged with 25 burgs, number 25 or number 1 is subject matter that's irrelevant, which means discovery has to be turned over immediately within the 15-day window. That is basically impossible to do. So working with the DA's office, a lot of these additional non-bail eligible felonies are being deferred. And we will continue to work with the DA's office for them to be charged. But the individual we were talking about, 18 of those cases were deferred. We did work with the DA's office prior to. That's why he was able to be charged with 6. But he is walking around since approximately 1 o'clock yesterday morning in the streets of New York.
I'm going to cut in a second, and as you can see, this gets really deep into the weeds, but all of those deferrals, and Rocco, I would say to you, it may not be, in layman's terms, I would describe it as declined prosecution and deferred is oftentimes used interchangeably. It's not necessarily so, but it is often used interchangeably. All those deferred arrests that we see growing significantly this year, it's tied to discovery, is not then showing up in Mike's earlier stats about recidivism. So there's many layers to this, but I think that we could probably spend 6 hours and probably not hit many of the other topics. So I'm going to, I mean, if we have real specifics, we'll try to answer it, but maybe we'll do a second forum outside of this or something.
The chief, and then for yourself. So chief, of that number, 803, how many, I mean, deferred prosecution is one thing. Declined prosecution suggests the DA feels you don't have a case. So what number is declined prosecution?
Again, those are used interchangeably.
Yes.
They really are. We're declining it at this point in time, and we will resurrect it at a later point. And what we're seeing this year, definitively, is a significant increase in those as a response to the discovery issues.
And just, Rocco, just one last thing. If you get charged with 5 Berg's third degree or 1, it's the same. It is the same as far as you are not eligible to get bail.
Yeah.
Now, there are aggravating factors. Very, very fun.
So from a prosecutor standpoint, that makes sense. You know, it's a strategy. If I have to release the person today, why go through all the others? We can make that determination down the road. What we're saying is, though, that affects the arrest rates and the recidivism rates because they're not showing up yet. Next question? No, you can't. Next.
I would welcome a separate forum for those questions.
That would be very smart.
I was wondering if you could just talk a little bit about hate crimes, anti-black hate crimes, which you flagged yesterday also. Has had a large increase, and what is other? I don't know if you know what's driving that.
The other is when you have multiples. So rather than parse them separately out, believe it or not, it's not a big number, but you may have occurrences where somebody spray paints something on the wall, and it's against multiple protected classes.
Hate crimes?
Chief Harrison.
So if I just give you a rundown of all the hate crimes for the year to date, we're actually down 63 versus 65. I know a big concern in 2019 were the anti-Semitic. We're actually down with the anti-Semitic this year, 35 versus 41. Sexual orientation, we're down 4 versus 6. But yes, there is a spike in anti-black hate crimes. And if I could just give you a quick breakdown regarding the crimes, we have 3 for the year to date being aggravated harassment 1, 3 for the year to date being aggravated harassment 2, and 4 for the year to date being criminal mischief 4. So what we're seeing is a lot of graffiti being displayed around the city. I shouldn't say a lot, because it's small numbers, by the way, with the N-word being utilized incorrectly.
In the back.
How many of those 299 arrests were either for murder or rape, if any?
Well, you mean the initial? The initial would not fit into non-bail eligible.
No, the subsequent.
None of them, because those would be,
You mean the afters? Yes, I do have the breakdown. So they have been rearrested after their initial arrest 99 times for robbery, 79 times for burglary, 65 times for grand larceny, 28 times for grand larceny of an auto, 27 times for felonious assault, and 1 time for murder.
Juliet?
Chief, you said you can imagine what's going to happen 6 months from now. What will be happening 6 months from now, and what needs to change so that this doesn't happen 6 months from now?
I mean, look, when...
Can I just jump in? No, just Chief, that's a question over here. We have made very, very clear that we need help from Albany, and we expect help from Albany. Conversations have been very, very productive. You've seen the statement from the governor. You've seen the actions of the state Senate. I think it's becoming clearer and clearer that there will be change on April 1st, and that's what we need.
And with that as the backdrop, we also don't wait. I mean, you saw the officer a moment ago. All across New York City every day, officers are out there keeping New Yorkers safe, and we'll continue to. We will adjust, as I said. we'll redeploy, and maybe quite significantly as we're working through our plans going forward in terms of putting more officers out on the street, into the places where we see most people being victimized. So people in New York City, as always, I think I hit, whether it's churches or community meetings, they let us know when we're doing well, and they let us know when they need more assistance. And, I was out in Queens last week at a town hall meeting, and some of the store owners brought up concerns. But we will be out there to keep New Yorkers safe. That's the message.
So what's the year-to-date change in index crimes percentage-wise?
It's about 21% as we sit here. Ashley?
This question is for, thank you. This question is for Chief LaPetrie. The messaging from the top has been that the bail reform people are getting out who are then going and reoffending. But when Rocco asked you just now about the 109, you said that those were rearrests, not necessarily reoffenses. So I'd like it if you could clarify if these people are getting out and committing new offenses, or are you all arresting them for things that they were wanted on earlier?
I think I'll let Mike speak for himself. I think what he's going to tell you is it is undercounted because they are offending more. These are merely the arrests. But Mike?
Again, thank you, Commissioner. These are rearrests after the initial arrest. So even if the offense, because we used a formula where we use occurrence from to, which means the occurrence cannot be before 1/1 to get onto this data. All right, so it is done by the right people, and I am very, very confident in the data that I am sharing today. It is empirical, and this is, again, arrested after your initial arrest for a non-bail eligible felony. Those individuals have been arrested for 299 7 majors compared to 109 7 majors last year, at the same time with the same group of people using the same procedure.
Right, and what I'm asking you, are these offenses that they have committed since their release, or are these older offenses that you're
No,
arresting?
nothing is older. This is, every offense is committed after their initial arrest from January 1st.
And we also, I think it would be really helpful, Commissioner, if we could take all this information, put out in writing, online, whatever, so all the folks here can understand the nuances and ask questions off of very specific data.
Yeah, I'm looking at Devora, and Devora can quarterback that.
Follow-up to that question for the commissioner and perhaps the mayor is, are you saying here that, so let me back up. So the Legal Aid Society and other public defenders have come out and saying that they've noted a significant drop in the cases docketed, and that differs from the complaints. Arrests, according to your own numbers, are pretty much steady or rising slightly. How do you explain the difference between the gap between arrests on new cases and the cases that are currently underway through the criminal justice system? You're saying
Ashley, let me just, if I could, I saw that tweet, and I was a little dumbfounded when I seen it. As a student of this for many, many years, I honestly believe, and this is what I believe, that they lost a lot of credibility. I don't know why they put that tweet out. It really makes no sense. And I can't say it any simpler than that. They lost credibility with people that have any knowledge of the criminal justice system in terms of clearly the crimes are occurring. I mean, we have victims every day that we're seeing. And to match up what they said really does not make sense.
the gap, because it's still there.
Which gaps?
Between docketed cases and the new arrests.
How do you explain that to the victims?
You have arrests coming into the system, many of which are getting deferred at a much higher rate because of the discovery issues with the bail. You also have, out of that picture a pipeline, feeding. As you keep moving down the pipeline, now you have a whole series of arrests that, mandated by law, brand new, as of 2 months ago, must be desk appearance ticket issued. Those numbers have grown. I think it's roughly 60-something to over 800 this year. So as this pipeline is feeding, you have deferrals growing at a high rate. You have desk appearance tickets at a high rate. And the pipeline continues to go smaller and smaller. And now you have the arrests that remain in that pipeline, and now you have them being fed out. They must be released without bail.
And just to get,
And not every arrest, not every crime is resulting in arrest. They are well aware of that. That was a, you know, I'm incredulous at that tweet.
To that as well, it's a pretty serious accusation.
When you say pretty serious accusation, what are you saying?
They're being manipulated.
That what? I'm sorry?
The crime stats are being manipulated.
It's not the first time we've seen different organizations out there attempt to make that charge. I find it, and by the way, to be provocative, I remember once upon a time when the police commissioner under Michael Bloomberg attempted to make that charge about some of our statistics. Do you remember that? Right. They're wrong. It's a game. They're wrong. When people try, this is such a meticulous organization, it's being transparent. When people have an axe to grind from right or left and they attempt to go at the stats, I just don't buy it. Let's talk about what is tangibly happening before our eyes. It's very striking. We know what we have to do about it. Let's fix it.
Both Commissioner and Mayor, I wanted to ask about hate crimes against Asians. I think a lot of Asian American leaders in the cities have voiced concern that there will be a rise in xenophobia due to the coronavirus, but the stats show 0 hate crimes directed at Asians. Do you think there are really no hate crimes? Are you concerned they're just not being reported?
I want to start on this. Look, I'm always concerned about reporting. I think there's a number of areas, and hate crimes are one of them, where it stands to reason we're not hearing everything we need to know, and we want to. And again, this is this kind of, it may seem counterintuitive, and I want to give the NYPD a lot of credit. We have been begging for years and years, please tell us, whatever it is. You know, we know for a long time domestic violence was underreported. We know sexual violence has been underreported. We know hate crimes has been underreported. We want all reporting. It's absolutely crucial to stop these crimes, to get those facts. So please help us appeal to everyone to come forward. But I would say we undoubtedly are seeing discrimination towards the Asian communities, and we're trying to use every tool we can to stop it. And I want to emphasize right now to all New Yorkers, it is absolutely unacceptable to discriminate against Asian individuals and Asian communities in the midst of this crisis. And by the way, in case you hadn't been paying attention, this crisis now is extended all over the world, and we're unfortunately experiencing community transmission, and we're experiencing cases from countries outside of Asia. So not only is the discrimination immoral, it's inaccurate. But in general, I would say, thank God we're not seeing more serious incidents, and if anyone knows of one, we need to hear about it right away.
So before we go to coronavirus any further, can you go back on topic?
No, hold on. I just want to clarify, because we're going to be doing coronavirus separately later on, so that was just, I should have, you were right to flag it. I should have flagged it. My bad. Just want to make sure everyone understands we're going to do all the police matters. I'm going to do non-coronavirus, new category, non-coronavirus off topic. And then we're going to break for a few minutes to get the latest updates. We'll come back and do just coronavirus. So, thank you.
Is the NYPD or other city agencies taking extra steps regarding possible hate crimes against Asian communities?
I'll start it. I'll turn it over to Rodney. For example, we were made aware of a social media post yesterday that appears to be in New York City Transit. That's been flagged over to Chief Harrison for the Hate Crimes Task Force to look at. But, you know, Rodney recounted the details earlier that we are down in overall hate crimes. We're down in anti-Semitic crimes and some other categories. But it's still too high. I mean, when you see hate crimes occurring, it's too high. We do have significant amount of resources, roughly 25 people of different ranks in our hate crimes task force. We think that they are readily available to muster up to combat this, but Rodney can speak to that specific incident that we just were made aware of.
So first, if you don't mind, Commissioner, I just want to echo the words of the mayor. Is yes, absolutely, we want people to report it, and I don't not sure if we're getting an accurate amount of incidents and I think it's underreported, to be honest. But yesterday morning, about 9 o'clock on the inline train by the 8th Avenue in the 6-8 precinct, there was an individual who was standing next to a Asian individual and started spraying Febreze around his feet and around him. We did receive a 911 call for an emotionally disturbed person. Upon our arrival, it was on the train. The train was no longer there, so we were unable to take a report. We received a social media post. We are investigating right now. Our hate crimes task force is reviewing the incident, and it's an ongoing investigation.
Is the mayor's office for the prevention of hate crimes doing anything specifically on potential anti-Asian xenophobia right now?
That's what they do, and we'll get you the details.
Rich in the back, I didn't forget you.
Yeah, so Mr. Mayor and Mr. Commissioner, about the bail reform issue, I'm just looking for some simple declarative sentences of what it is you're seeing before your eyes, to quote the mayor. I mean, I understand it's a delicate issue, you're talking to Albany, but what's happening here? In the simplest terms, without numbers, if you will, what are you seeing?
We're seeing a major increase in property crimes in particular. And I'm the first to say there's never only one factor to anything, but there's a direct correlation to the change in the law, and we need to address it, and we will address it. I'm absolutely confident that this will be addressed on April 1st.
Tony?
Follow up on the bail issue, but one more time. Yesterday you had mentioned that you wanted to empower the judiciary, which seems to be out of the picture now.
To empower who?
Judiciary.
Yeah.
What would you like the judges to be able to do with some sort of change in the bail reform situation? What would you like them to do?
I don't remember saying that yesterday, but I probably did, and I've said it before. I mean, it comes down to that issue of mandatory release versus discretion for the judges. So, I mean, I would pose to you, take a look at what happens inside a courtroom. That courtroom is controlled in, I would say, almost every sense of the word by the judges. They make determinations on law, on case law. They make determinations on what evidence is allowed in that case. They make determinations on what witnesses and what's relevant for the jury to be heard. When a case is tried and there's a guilty verdict, they make determinations on what the sentence is going to be. Is that person going to jail for 3 years or for probation or 30 years? Every aspect of that room is controlled by the judge. To have it now that we don't trust judges to make a determination in very small cases on pre-trial sentencing, I think is a little off there. I think there's, again, every time I've talked about bail reform, I've said the same thing. I think it was well-intentioned. I think it was very good aspects accomplished, and I think that can be retained with just a couple small fixes. And then we will have what everyone wants. Fair system with public safety.
Mr. Mayor, you're pretty attuned to what's going on in the state capital. What changes do you see as being the most possible up in Albany? I mean, seeing you're expecting something to happen on April 1st. It's April Fool's Day.
Despite your profound observation of the calendar. One might ask, to be fair, why long ago in Albany they decided that the budget day would be April 1st. One might have asked, couldn't you have chosen a different day? But it has always been April 1st, for as long as I can remember. I am a believer in judicial discretion. I believe that is the single best way to address these issues. Obviously, the state Senate agrees, given what they put out as a proposal. That is not the end of the discussion. There's a lot more that has to be done. I will always tell you when I feel I am an expert on something or not. I am not an expert on the topic of what's going on in New Jersey, but from what I have heard, their model has been very effective, which focuses on judicial discretion, while, as the commissioner said, rightfully addressing the historic problems with bail and achieving that reform. So I think that's a real interesting model. I hope everyone in Albany will be looking at. But I also would be the first to say there's more than one way to solve this problem, or more than one combination of changes that might solve the problem. Obviously, in a process that involves Assembly, Senate, Governor, there's going to be some back and forth. But the level of focus, the level of agreement on the need to do something, I think, gets stronger by the day.
So we'll open it up now to police questions off this topic if anyone wishes.
Ford from Pixel Avenue. Can you talk about this shooting at 163rd Street between Amsterdam and Edgecombe? Thank you.
Obviously, it's a very ongoing situation. There was a dispute going on in the building. Some people came out, started throwing rocks up towards a particular apartment that they've had this dispute with. At some point, a shot was fired out of that apartment, striking a male in the face. It looked like it was small rounds. They came out from maybe a shotgun. A possible shot was fired back towards the apartment. We currently have 4 people in the station house, and the investigation is continuing.
Did they shoot at members of service at all?
No.
President Trump announced this morning that he'll start withholding funding to sanctuary cities who don't cooperate with ICE. I'm wondering if you've heard anything about that, what your response is, and if you have an estimate of how much money is at stake for New York.
1, we'll see him in court. 2, the Supreme Court decision, we said this a couple of years ago when this first started, the original executive order on immigration came out. The Supreme Court decision that makes clear that it's not appropriate was written by Justice Roberts, I believe it was 2012. So we still believe that it's unconstitutional for the federal government to withhold security funding for a locality based on a policy disagreement. And that still needs to be further adjudicated in court, and we'll see him in court. The amount of money, I want to check my facts. I believe it's single-digit millions, but you may know offhand.
I don't know offhand. This was discussed at length yesterday at the budget hearing. Our new Deputy Commissioner of Management and Budget, and obviously we would be concerned, but we will continue to work to resolve this in any way possible because we rely on those funds for the safety of all New Yorkers.
So can you give us an update on the status of the 5 police officers who are quarantined and then also have more been quarantined?
Currently, there's 4 police officers quarantined. None of them are symptomatic at this point in time.
Real quick, what will the NYPD do about people who don't want to be quarantined?
We're going to speak to that later on in the press conference. Here to help.
For the Commissioner. Commissioner, on Staten Island, there's a group of local residents who are putting up yellow ribbons around the locations of speed cameras to help drivers know where the cameras are so that the drivers would slow down temporarily in the area where the yellow ribbon is, but then drive faster, perhaps even recklessly, all over the island where there aren't yellow ribbons. Just love to know what your comment would be on what you think of that as a law enforcement official, and also a follow-up would be simply, what could the NYPD do? Is that some sort of obstruction of governmental operations, perhaps?
I had not heard that, so thank you for bringing that to my attention. But the speed with which Chief Morris came up tells me that he had heard of it. And I'll tell you, anything that makes our methods to keep New Yorkers safe, I would be concerned about. And sometimes it's not that high tech. It could be taking it down. But I had not heard of that. I'll have a conversation with Billy. Billy, you're aware of it?
I'm Chief Morris. I'm Chief of Transportation. I've seen the articles in the media about it and some of the pictures regarding it. Currently, there are about 600 speed cameras deployed throughout the city. We have always supported them. Anything that addresses dangerous driving behavior, anything that gets it to stop, is something that we encourage. It's interesting to note there were 221 fatal collisions last year in the city. According to the investigations conducted by our collision investigation squad, 28 of them involved speed. So speed is clearly an issue here. Anything that gets dangerous driving behavior to stop, we would encourage. At the same time, on an absolute look at the law, posting signs on city property is clearly improper and illegal. However, there is some confusion here with these yellow ribbons. It's well known that yellow ribbons are used to commemorate military service and to commemorate folks who have passed in traffic collisions. So at this point, we're not prepared to take action on the yellow ribbons specifically. But again, I would put out there, anything that deters dangerous driving behavior is something that this agency would support.
Your language of what you just said suggests that you support the yellow ribbons because at least on those blocks, the drivers would be going slower, even though on other blocks where there's no ribbon, they could go whatever speed they choose.
I don't believe that's what I said. I think I addressed the yellow ribbon specifically saying at this point we're not prepared to take action against them, given their dual statements that they're used for.
But really, and I said this the other day at the Brooklyn Borough President's office when we had many religious leaders in and had great conversations again with the community. This topic came up, not about Staten Island, but about the terrible incidents from a week ago in Brooklyn, where we lost 2 very young children. It's incumbent upon everyone. Billy mentioned the speeding, and I would add inattentiveness to that. And anything that we can do from the police department standpoint, working with our partners, whether it's speed enforcement, whether it's increased deployment, whether it's handing out flyers to remind people of the dangers, particularly around schools. That was just awful, what happened. Rocco, this isn't the same question, is it? Okay.
Just for yourself, or maybe Chief Monahan or Chief Pichardo, an incident last night captured on video, I guess it's in Canarsie in the 6-9.
Yeah.
2 men in the park smoking marijuana, a subsequent arrest with an allegation of excessive force. Have you seen the video? What is your assessment?
Yeah, I'll walk you through what I know at this point in time. I mean, it happened yesterday, but at the end of the story, the short answer is I'm going to look for an investigation just to make sure I know everything that happened here. But here's the facts as I know them now. Yesterday afternoon in the 6-9, we had a shot spotter alert indicating shots fired. Several blocks away from that, I believe 2. But you can tell it's preliminary because I'm not positive. 2 officers, I think, encountered 2 males in a park. As they approach them, they believe they're smoking marijuana. As they go to interact with them, again, they just had the shots fired in the area. The 2 males immediately take off running in different directions. What you see on that video is one of the 2 males as he's apprehended by one of the officers. The other male was also apprehended. I don't know how far away at this point. He wound up being issued a summons and released. The individual that is depicted on the video, you see a plainclothes police officer radioing for assistance. And then after a short period of time, you also see somebody videoing. You hear the male having a very distinct conversation with the officer. Why are you stopping me? Things of that nature. As backup officers respond to the scene, the male is taken to the ground. He is subsequently brought in, charged with, I believe, possession of marijuana, resisting arrest, and unlawful or obstruction of governmental administration, released on a desk appearance ticket. So you have 1 summons, you have 1 arrested and released before seeing a judge. I took a look at the pictures of the individual. As I know it at this time, he had abrasions to his knee. That could change, but that's what I believe to be accurate at this point in time. I did see pictures of him from the neck up. I didn't see any injuries. Some disturbing points, Rocco, to the video. I'm going to ask, where's Fausto? Fausto's here on my right to take a look at the entire incident. Above all else, there's one point in time where you see, as there's a scrum, if you will, of officers, you see somebody standing on what I believe to be I think the ages of the 2 young men were 20 and 18. One of the men, his ankle. And that's where we have it at this point in time. Certainly, you look at the totality. It's interesting that we had, the totality of the incident from the beginning in 2 very separate outcomes. I would like to even see a third outcome. I would like to see approach, discussion, and no running, no physical resistance at all, no arrest needed. You know, I guess Terry and I have known each other a long time. Ben, Fausto. The problem is you can't go back in time, and this is what we have now. This speaks to the heart of what I've been talking about for many weeks, probably months now, in terms of juveniles. You know, at this point in time, I have nothing to indicate that they were in any way tied to the ShotSpotter incident, but I certainly don't know that the officers didn't know that as they were arriving on that scene. And when you have two people take off running, I've been in that situation myself, and you don't know what you have. I think we just saw that with the officer in the Bronx that we started today's event with. So we'll have to take a look at the entirety of it. The end is what concerns me. I'd love to have a different outcome where we wind up on the ground wrestling with somebody. But if we can learn something from it, whether there's, I'm not aware of a complaint that's been made regarding this incident, but certainly we'll have to take a look at beginning to end, any retraining needed, or any other, issues that may come up in the investigation. Fausto, anything?
Nope. Well said, Commissioner.
One more question, and then we'll reset for the mayor. Yes.
Thank you. Just going back to judicial discretion, last weekend or last Friday, a special narcotics prosecutor was charged with attempted murder after shooting up a Williamsburg bar, but he was released without bail, even though it was a bail-eligible offense. I'm just wondering, just to get you on the record, is that a good use of judicial discretion? Should a special narcotics officer be released without bail?
Yeah, I did not see, I saw the story. I don't know the facts intimately. This is a private investigator that works for Special Narcotics Part. Am I accurate on that?
His employment, but was called a special narcotics prosecutor. But the point was, it was a bail-eligible offense, and he was released.
If there's a shots fired in a bar, I'd like to see all the facts. I would always like to see the judges have discretion in a situation like this. Look at the individual before them, look at the history, look at the facts of this case, and somebody dangerous needs to be kept off the street.
That might be problematic in terms of how we're deeming who is dangerous and who is not dangerous.
I think that's a fair question.
Yeah,
I also think we have to be able to trust judges.
Yeah, but I think it's a very fair question. I think the important point is to craft an approach that comes with real checks and balances and guidelines. I don't want to go back to the bad old days. I don't want to have a situation where someone is discriminatory, that they just get to do whatever the heck they want. What I want is, and again, I have felt this long before the current law, that remember, our system is predicated on the question of flight risk. That's a really blunt instrument. It's a really inappropriate, in my view, way to think about all the considerations that we have to think about. The first question is, how do we keep people safe? So what I want is a judge to be able, with criteria, with checks and balances, to determine if someone might pose a threat, they have the opportunity to hold them in. The case you indicate, to me, as a layman, not knowing all the facts, I'd say that's someone you'd hold in, regardless of who they are, regardless of background, et cetera. But I think what we'll find some, what's the word I'm looking for, where I think we can find some consensus in Albany is the notion of, yes, there's a virtue to discretion, but it must come with clear standards, checks, and balances.
Thank you. We're going to reset for the mayor now, and we'll be right back up.
So we're going to keep a few of you.